Well, I don't even think it's 4 o'clock yet, and I'm up, and my brain is functioning as well as it ever does. And I've got things to do, places to go, people to see. I have to cross out some of those things. I can't do any of this or much of this because we're stuck. So, one of the things that the Urban Sketchers group is doing every weekend, we used to meet face to face and closer than 6 feet away from each other and pick a location and draw for a couple of hours and then share our drawings with other people and the world. And we don't do that now because of the shutdown and the staying at home and sheltering in place and social distancing and all that kind of stuff. So they've come up with different prompts that will keep us busy. And the last couple of them involved much of the urban sketching is drawing cities, and it isn't said in the manifesto of the group, but it is implied in the title of the group, Urban Sketching. It's not rural sketching or wilderness sketching. It's sort of describing the city life, urban life, buildings and people and man-made stuff rather than the wilderness. Anyway, the last couple of things were do a virtual drawing of your city or a place, a neighborhood, by going on Google Map and drawing. And that might be fun to do, but you're not really drawing a thing. You're drawing a representation of a thing that you see on a flat screen, and I always think that that's not a good idea if you have a three-dimensional thing to draw. So I thought what might be fun for people rather than that is to draw something in your own environment, like your house, your loft, your apartment, from the point of view of your pet, if you have such a pet. If you don't have a pet, you can maybe easily imagine what a cat would see if you had a cat, and or if you had a bird in a cage, what would the bird in the cage see? And so, for example, what would a bird in a cage see? If I had a bird in a cage, I do actually have birds in cages, but they're dead. Don't ask. Now I've got some stuffed birds in stuffed cages. I have a bird cage, but it has two or three geisha girl dolls in them for some reason. Don't ask. Anyway, if there was a cage, let's say here's my room that I'm in, and here I'm standing wearing a dress and high heels, and here's my bird cage, and here's my perch, and there's my bird. And if looking at, my view looking at the bird, here's my eye level, here's the cage, I would see something that looks something like this. I see the bottom of the cage because my eye level is below the cage. And up here somewhere I see the bird, and I'm looking up at the bird, so I see his belly, I see his two legs coming out and his high heels on, and so I would see that. And then I'd see, if there was a window behind the bird, over here somewhere, I would see the window like this. And again, I'd be looking up at the casement of the window. So I see this view. If I was the bird looking down at me, I'm looking, here's the bird and here's his cage, bars looking down at me, and I'm looking up at him, so my head, he would see my head sort of, quote, normally, but my body would be foreshortened. You'd see my feet down here, my dress, my high heels. You'd see my one arm going out this way, the other arm going this way. There's my hands. I'm sort of at a weird angle. So I'd be seeing this foreshortened person looking straight at me, so my face isn't foreshortened. If I was looking down, you'd see my bald spot here and my what's left of my hair here. But anyway, let's say that there was a couch over here. Now the couch doesn't exist in this drawing because it's out of sight, but let's say I have a couch here behind me, so you'd see that looking down. Here's the legs of the couch, here's the back of the couch, here's the seat of the couch. And then I might throw the bottom of my cage like this, and then you see my bird droppings here because the bird shit there because, lazy Pierre doesn't bother to clean it up. That's what you'd see. So I thought, if you did have a bird and you have a house, looking down from you could get a ladder if you wanted and stand on the ladder looking down at your house, and that might give you an interesting view. From the cat's point of view, I do have a cat, and my cat does there's a couple things he likes to do, one of which is to stay underneath a sort of a prairie style desk that serves as a dining room table for two in my house. And the desk looks sort of like this. It has, the top part that has a drawer. It has two pedestal-like legs coming down. It has a little strut here and then feet down here, and he sits right here. And there's some books here on the below against this pedestal. And there's the cat, tail thumping, thump, 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 thump. That's how he sits. So if he was down here looking around, this thing here, the bottom of the desk, would be sort of his, this represents the bottom. Let's say here the drawer is here, the thing is here, this post is here, there's books here. The bottom rung is here, and his head would be here, and would be that. So you're looking up at anything above a foot off the ground. He sees the bottom of. So if I'm in the kitchen, and this is where he stays when he's waiting to have me feed him. Here's his tail, thump, 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 thump. He's looking into the kitchen at me. You see his back. And, he'll see me in the kitchen way off in the distance here. Here I am I'm finding his food and opening it up. And so, but I thought what would be interesting is to change your perspective. Your eyeballs normally are 6 feet off the ground, or in my case, they're 5 feet, 9 inches off the ground, or whatever. And put them down at the ground. So here, and this is what happens. The thing that magically happens when you do that is you sort of become this little tiny Lilliputian looking at Gulliver's universe. So I posted this drawing, which I did of my desk, and people, it took people a while to understand what it was. And this right here is my coffee mug, right there. I need to clean my coffee mug, don't I? Pretend you didn't see that. So here's my coffee mug, and my eye level is level to the bottom of here about. My desk is slightly tilted. Here's a pair of scissors, not these, but a pair of pinking shears. So you see the jaggedy zigzag pattern there. And let me just get them. How difficult is it here? Plan ahead. So this is what you see right here. You see it from the side, not from the top, but from the side. And here, this thing here is this. This is this. But because we're seeing, and then these things here are those things there. But what's happened by moving your eyeball down to this level, it makes everything look big. And it turns a desktop into a landscape or a cityscape. I think it does. It's really a fun exercise, and I think you should try it if you've never done something like this before. It's interesting to do. One of my favorite cartoonists from the newspaper world was named Winsor McCay, and he played with scale a lot in his various cartoons, which usually involved a boy by the name of Nemo who would have a dream, and in the dream all sorts of crazy things happened. But there was one illustration he did where, the creatures in the dream are, there's a little Nemo, this little boy, and he had this sort of pygmy-like friend and a big fat policeman, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Three standard people that all existed, and they'd be wandering around the city or in outer space or under the water, all crazy places. But there was one example where they were inside some beautiful, museum or cathedral or something, and everything was upside down. So they were walking on the interior dome sphere of this building, and just because everything was upside down, it became a completely wild and weird place. And it's just amazing. So look him up, Winsor McCay. But anyway, one of the drawings shows them wandering around this very strange looking factory like space. It had various platforms and interesting levels to it, and it looked like it was made of metal, and like you were in the rafters of this very complicated place. And it took a second or two or three or four or whatever to understand what you were looking at. And they were inside of a watch, a pocket watch, or could have been a clock, but I think it somehow makes me think it was a watch. So rather than looking down at, the gears that sort of overlap and the inside of the gear, this part here, that makes this gear move, might be here, and here's the big gear itself. So the gears you all saw from the side, which is a view you don't normally see, for one, unless you're maybe a watchmaker or something, but they also were 100 times, or 100 times bigger, we'll say. I don't know, maybe 50 times bigger than reality. So you had a gear that you saw the bottom of here, you had a gear that was to your eye level here, and a gear that you saw the top of here. So your eye level was in this spot. And then you had little Nemo, climbing up, being helped by the pygmy who's over here, being helped by the big fat policeman, which is over here. And they're climbing these gears of a pocket watch. And it was just fascinating what your brain and your eyeball would see. Your eye saw and your brain had to try to figure out. So that's what happens to here, where it looks like this. Maybe if you saw this, on a wall of a gallery or a museum, you might not know what this is initially. You might have a sense that this is the ground, and this is maybe a building, or this is a crane, maybe. I've been drawing a lot of cranes recently, so maybe people that were confused by this saw this as a crane, and these as buildings being built, and this is a building already built, and this is a big old round water tower or something. I don't know. So, but just changing the point of view, the vantage point of your canvas is really, really a fun thing to do. And imagining yourself small. So let's just show you a real drawing of that. Let's say, and I'm going to draw I'm going to pretend I'm sitting down below me, but I'm not. I'm just going to, because it's too early in the morning to do that. So let's say we have these three things right there. And I'm a little tiny, I'm maybe this big. What would I see if I was looking in this direction? Just move them around a little bit. So if I was the height of this, my eyeballs were at the height of this thing right there, matchbox. Here's the side of the matchbox is here. My eye level is here, so behind it is this Sharpie cap. Here's the top. Here's the bottom of the matchbox. This side is dark. This is the white side. Shadow is cast in this direction. Then we've got this Sharpie. It has a clip, big fat clip on top of it. And then over here we have this big old bottle of ink. And the cap is up here like this. See, it looks like this in the front, so it has this hexagonal face, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides to it. Then it has on the top, it has the cap. And the sides are also faceted like this. It says Waterman. There's a little hexagonal thing here. It says Waterman going across the top. Black thing there. Oh, let's just behind this is this sort of box here, but that's off in the distance. And then behind that is that, and then we've got the shelves behind that. So by changing this perspective down to here, my eyeball is right there, or slightly below, even lower than that. This sort of becomes a landscape. Does that look like a landscape? You know, if there were a paper clip in front of me, it would be huge, huge. Shadow of the paperclip. Sounds like a name of a weird mystery movie. The Shadow of the Paperclip, starring David Jansen as the paperclip. So anyway, I think that this changing your point of view while looking at something that's real in front of you might be something to do rather than going outside and going to the big city. Make your desktop a city. Make your look through the eyes of your bird or your dog or your cat. And if you don't have any of those, pretend you do. If you have body lice, what do they see? Use your imagination. I'm thinking of the cartoons that show a flea on a dog, and they, you see the flea with his hatchet cutting down a hair of a dog, like it's a oak tree, and that's sort of fun. Just to zoom yourself down to the size of a coronavirus virus. I mean, what would a coronavirus see if there was one right there? It probably is. There's probably one right at that very spot. And what would it see? I imagine its little tiny eyeballs would be so tiny that any sort of light that in fact, I got a coronavirus right here. Let me show you. There's one right there. This is made out of this face is made out of a Corona beer bottle box. And so you got the C and the O and the R and A's, two N's put together. Here's another one. Another one sticking his tongue out at us. Stop me if you can. Nah, 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 nah. And this one here, let me, there. That fitted in. This is what it looks like, little X's on its eyes. So imagine the world through the eyes of a coronavirus, if they had eyes, and if the wavelength of light was somehow would work with their tiny irises or lenses or whatever they are. What would they see? So change the scale of change the scale and perspective of things around your house to see them differently. That's your assignment. And your assignment, you can just continue to watch Netflix all day long. Good luck on that. You know, when you finally can do something else, you'll forget. How? Here's part of a C. I still have some. Oh, did I put it in the right box? I did not. Did I? I put that little thing in the wrong box. I've got boxes for each of my various projects, and I put it in the wrong box. The box I put it in is this one. This is for another exhibit that we're doing about the pandemic. And this one is these are boxes that were the huge boxes that toilet paper and paper towels come in. And I made about 6 faces. This is maybe the 7th face I made from these boxes. This is paper towels in this case. But I do have, I think maybe I threw them all out, the other ones, because I sort of made what I wanted to make. They were Scott tissue, puffs, Charmin, Brawny, Bounty, paper towels, and toilet paper. So this was from some company called EcoSmart. They make some sort of in motion, and it's when you wave your hand in front of the paper towel dispenser in a restroom, it dispenses. So that's what this box held, were a bunch of paper towels, a 10-inch paper towel roll. So this became a face in 3/4 view. This is where he's parting his hair, sort of his graying hair at his temples, his nose, nostrils. He has a grayish mustache going on. Maybe he dyes his hair blue to make him look younger. But you see the gray underneath coming out, so then it just makes him look stupid. Or lazy. Right, mister? Just have gray hair. Deal with it. Goodbye.